Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Our Lives, your weekly podcast where we talk about everything that will affect each and every one of our lives. Are you fed up of making 4 trips to carry your shopping in every week? Because I know I was. And that's why this week we're very lucky to be joined by Commonwealth Games competitor, no less, and coach extraordinaire, Holly Knowles. Welcome to the show, Holly.
Hello, thank you for having me, Vicky.
Weightlifting. So I know some of our listeners are going to think, nah, not for me. I can't imagine myself lifting weights. How did you begin weightlifting?
It was totally by accident. Back in 2014, when I was 17, I've always participated in some sort of sport. So at the time it was athletics. And then I got the opportunity to do some winter strength and conditioning, which I actually at the time had no idea what that was going to entail. Not a clue. I'd never stepped foot in a gym at this point. And yeah, it wasn't necessarily weightlifting as I would know it now. It was very much weight, dumbbell exercise, that type of stuff. But I really enjoyed it. And after that, I joined a CrossFit gym, which was in town. And then I actually did a week worth of work experience with them, which not exactly work experience. They taught me how to weightlift in that week. So it's very beneficial.
It all happened very, very quickly and very, very much by accident.
Very much by accident. Yeah, so in that week they taught me how to do the Olympic lifts, which is a snatch and a clean and jerk. And that was it. Then I was hooked within 3 months. My boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, had signed me up for what we called a local lifting league, which was an in-house gym competition.
Okay.
Very nervous. Didn't really want to do it. I'd only been doing it maybe 8 weeks at this point.
Wow, so that was really quick.
Yeah, really soon. And if you'd have known me back then, I was so shy. I wouldn't, I didn't approach anybody. I wasn't that girl that was really full of confidence and would go out and do anything. Very within myself. So standing on a platform on my own with 3 judges watching me and competitors was not ideal, but that was it then. I was all in.
So you were hooked.
Yeah,
you were hooked. And knowing you now, I would not believe that of you at all. But I think that kind of leads me really nicely to a point that we'll talk through some of the benefits of weightlifting.
Yeah.
And I think you've probably hit the nail on the head with one of them right there. Confidence.
Yeah.
Just being an absolute badass, lifting heavy things up. I mean, come on. That's got to do a lot for people's confidence.
It's quite empowering. I can't lie. I mean, as you know, Vicky, I've got a junior weightlifting team, and some of the juniors that come in there, like the youngest has been 7, and some of them start a little bit older than that, but you get the parents coming in saying their confidence has improved tenfold, and that's just with the weightlifting team, starting with them as youngsters. I've got a ladies class that I couldn't tell you the average age of them, but they're sort of between the 30s and 70s actually.
Wow.
And even them, I think, just as their strength grows, they become a little bit more empowered, and their self-belief is a bit more, I could actually try and do that, as opposed to maybe starting the class. It's a bit more, I don't know what my body's capable of. I don't know if that might hurt me, or all that sort of stuff that comes with weightlifting and just being a little bit stronger physically and mentally. I think I'm very lucky in the sense that the clientele that I seem to attract, totally by accident, they are very much wanting to improve their lifestyle. They are wanting to get stronger. Yes, there's probably always an aesthetic goal to it, an aspect to it, but by the time they realize that their training to just be stronger and improve their life and the quality of life, it kind of becomes like a secondary goal.
Yeah, I think when I've spoken to people, because I'm a huge advocate for weightlifting, you know I am. I now, just to let everybody know, I do carry all my shopping in one go, and that's my biggest flex. I love it.
Love that.
Absolutely love it. I hang those bags on both arms and I just wander right in.
Look at me go.
Look at me go. But I think perhaps in the past, and you see more women partaking in weights now, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Both of my children, I've got a boy and a girl, both of them, and my daughter is one of your students, Holly. She comes to your class and loves training with you. I think what I hear quite a lot, particularly from women around my age, is, oh, I don't want to get bulky. So let's dispel some of the myths around weightlifting, because is it really easy to end up accidentally looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I'm gonna say no, it's not easy. It all comes down to partly genetics, partly your nutritional intake, and then also like how hard you train. But in the same breath, you can still train exceptionally hard, still eat, you know, a maintenance amount of calories, and never get bulky. It's actually it's one that you hear quite often, actually, like you said.
Definitely.
But no, it's actually very hard to get bulky. It requires a calorie surplus, so you're going to have to be eating a lot more than you probably think you are. Training intensity is, you know, it's got to be up there, and I think that's something that people don't quite understand, and it takes a while for people to understand what intensity is, and feeling like you're working hard is probably not even hard enough.
Okay.
When you're trying to get to that level of, like, I'm assuming people, when they say bulky, they mean like, you know, massive bodybuilder, Hulk.
Bodybuilder type.
Yeah.
And I think if only all the bodybuilders out there, if it was that easy, I think most teenage boys would all be walking around looking like Arnie.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that easy, but I do think it's a myth that's still really pervasive. When I talk to people, it's like, oh, I'll get bulky, and you think, well, actually, not unless you're planning on spending a lot of time in the and a lot of money on protein powders, you're not going to get that bulky. So I think that's one thing. I think if we talk through some of the other benefits of weightlifting, we've covered confidence, which I think probably for me, aside from the health areas, is huge. And, you know, I've got personal experience of seeing that confidence grow in people. This podcast is aimed at mostly older-ish people. You're slightly younger than our normal demographic on here. Is what are the health benefits to lifting weights? Are there any, and what are they?
Yeah. I mean, there's loads. Excuse me. One of my eldest clients is actually 84.
Wow.
Yeah, and I started coaching her after she had a hip replacement. And so that was just pre-COVID, actually. I started coaching her, and she is phenomenal. Like the benefits that she has found from I only coach her once a week, from just doing mobility things. Like I know we're talking weightlifting, but just balancing on one leg, like that's made a massive difference to her. She's a lot more confident with her walking, which, you know, in terms of her getting out of the house is huge. My grandparents are, you know, slowing down a little bit. They are creeping up to the big 90. But if more and more people can just understand that the simplest things, like balancing on one leg while you're brushing your teeth, or sitting down up, you know, up from a chair a couple of times a day, as opposed to just, you know, sitting up and down to eat your dinner or whatever, is going to make growing old a lot easier. Posture,
Yep.
bone density, osteoarthritis. That's becoming quite worryingly common. All these things is, you know, if you're able to lift a little bit more than your body, even if that is 2-3 kilo dumbbells, how easy is it then going to be when you can do it without those dumbbells?
Definitely. And we covered on one of our other episodes, we covered around nutrition and the importance of nutrition as you age. And one of the things that came up with what we discussed was people don't have the muscle wastage of people who don't complete any kind of exercise is huge, and that then leads to further difficulties and challenges. And I think it's, you know, you can live for a long time, you can live for a good time, you can live well for a long good time as well. And I think that's what we're trying to aim, is preparing people and saying, if you do this now, you'll benefit for years and years to come. And I think that's absolutely huge. What other barriers do you think sometimes there are for people? Because I think back to when and that was pre-COVID, when I first joined a gym. The thought of walking into a gym, and what I thought was there was going to be full of all these super muscly guys and all these girls in their super cool gym kits, and I was wearing some manky old pair of jogging pants and a t-shirt that I'd found in the back of the cupboard. It was terrifying. And I just thought, everyone's going to be looking at me. I'm only going to be able to lift up a pencil. Everyone's going to laugh at me. And I've got to say, I love my morning gym sessions. And the range in there is, some of our ladies are 70. And for me, there's a bit of a community. Is that your experience too?
I would say that when I personally started the gym, I also had the same feelings as you, Vicky. And
Okay.
I can't say that they ever really disappear. Even like as a PT, I feel the pressure to dress a certain way, be a certain way. I mean, our gym isn't the warmest gym, and I'm constantly walking around in
freezing.
Hat, gloves. I'm not sure I look like a little gremlin, but so I still feel the pressure, and so therefore I can't then expect everybody to not feel that pressure. Especially when you're new to the gym, new to a gym environment, not really sure where to start, you know, what direction to be pointed in. But I do think that if you can just take that first step, even if it's with a buddy, with you know, a friend, a partner, a family member, whoever it is, even if that can just be your first step, eventually you'll have to sort of, you know, get out of your own comfort zone. But if it just helps you ease into that transition of getting into the gym, you know, I don't know about you, Vicky, but I don't think I've ever turned up to the gym and had a bad training session or wished I'd not done it.
No, I've never ever regretted it.
Ever,
not once in my whole life.
Such a cliche thing to do, but if you can step foot in the gym, the chances are you're in. You're not then gonna walk back out just because you stepped back in. So yeah, I do think that, and I do think that it is a tricky one because social media is such a big thing now. Absolutely. And you're constantly bombarded. Well, I know my feed is constantly bombarded by, you know, these perfect looking women and men, and they're in the newest gym gear and they've got the newest gym bottles and they're doing the wackiest new movements going. But I think from my perspective is if you can work on moving really well, it speaks for itself, because quite often if you see somebody moving really well in the gym, you're not like, I'm not looking at what they're wearing, I'm not looking what the hair's doing, I'm looking at their movement, and it's impressive.
I couldn't agree more. And I think as well, there's the spotlight effect that people think that people are looking from, and here's the sad reality of it: nobody really cares about you. That's the truth of it. Nobody's looking at you. Sorry.
No, it's something I try and instill in like the girls, especially the girls in the junior weightlifting team. But I've had it in the ladies class as well is, you know, they've joined the class thinking that it's going to be another one of those sessions where everybody's caring about what they're looking like, and really they're just having a giggle and a laugh, and they're just training and they're pushing each other. They don't really care what they're looking like. They're making some funny noises, you know.
I think as well, my experience of the gym, and I'm sure it's the same in your gym, and my daughter competes, and you're her coach, so we've been to competitions. And what I found, having come from a background where both of my kids have played competitive football, and that's a different podcast for a different day, parents and what goes on. I have found, and this is my experience, and please share yours, is that the weightlifting community is the most supportive community. Nobody's looking at you thinking, oh gosh, he's only lifted 2 kg. Everybody wants you to make that lift. Everybody's saying, go on, just try a little bit harder, and they're behind you and backing you up. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So
it's one thing that when the juniors and even the adults to a certain extent, because I've got an adults weightlifting team too, when they start that journey of training and trying to improve their lift, I'm a big supporter of, if I can get them on the platform sooner rather than later, that pressure to perform, because there is a massive pressure that I never necessarily felt it. So I'm not entirely sure what's changed over the 10 years that I've been coaching, but there's a massive pressure for the juniors, especially, that they have to be going in and winning medals. And I don't know where that comes from. I'm not sure if it's social media or if it's
could well be.
Yeah, or if it's something that I don't know is instilled in them from elsewhere. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm a big believer that if they can get on that platform sooner rather than later, they can then feel what you've just described there, that nobody really cares. Like, obviously everybody wants them to achieve, but nobody minds if you fall on your bum and you miss the lift, or you go for a walkabout around the platform and then drop the weight. Everybody feels that almost like upset for you if you miss the lift. There's no sort of there's no pressure at you to be anybody other than you on that platform. And I think that obviously does change the higher up you go in the rank, but at those junior comps, the age groups, even the masters, like if you walk into a masters weightlifting room, it's not the same as walking into a senior. So a senior is anybody between the ages of 23 and, well, technically 20, but 23 and 35.
That's senior?
Yeah.
I was in the geriatric league, unfortunately.
Masters is anybody above 35, and then they go into separate categories in their own right.
Okay.
But yeah, the seniors are a little bit more spicy, should I say?
Spicy? Yeah, we'll go with spicy.
Yeah, spicy. But then it is a little bit more competitive, and I think people are trying to qualify for various other competitions. But yeah, I think at junior level, it's awesome that they can just go up, do their own thing, not worry about, you know, what happens on that platform, and that parents are supportive, coaches are supportive, the umpires are supportive, and if a lift is missed, everybody feels that. And I do think, from what I've heard, I mean, I've never actually played like a team sport, football or anything like that, but from what I hear,
0 out of 10, do not recommend.
It's not the same.
No, boy, no, it is so far from the same as that. It couldn't be further from it. And I think that reflects in that sort of camaraderie and the support you receive in a competition setting. That also applies on a sort of a training level as well, where people are actually really supportive of newcomers, of newbies who, and I know my son works in a gym, and he says, you cannot move in there right now. And I said, but son, everybody's going there to improve themselves. And I said, but chances are it'll probably be a bit quieter at the end of January when everybody's
settled in.
Yeah.
It's one of those. I think I always try and instill a team spirit, although it's an individual sport, and I know we've gone from, general population weightlifting, strength training to weightlifting team. I do think it's important that they train together as team at least once a month, because quite often they'll go down to competitions as a team, and it's important that they can not only deal with success and failure on their own, but that they can be aware of how the team is doing as a unit, and pull each other through that, because it's quite a lonely sport. I've been doing it 10 years now, and training can get a little bit tedious when you're doing the same thing. Essentially, you're just trying to get a bigger total. So more kilos in your snatch and more kilos in your clean and jerk. And so it's a lot of repetitive movements. And so if you've not got that team spirit around you, it can be quite isolating. But I would also say that with general strength training, I've got a lot of clients that have been with me for 10 years of me coaching, and I've suggested, they're more than capable of going and doing their own stuff in the gym now. They don't need me to correct their form anymore, but they like the accountability that I bring, but also the social side. So I don't actually coach anyone really under, I'd say 50 probably. Don't get me wrong, I do have clients that are under 50, but I would say 80% of my clientele is about 45 onwards. And so social for them might just be coming to the class or having a social with me whilst they're training.
And I can completely relate to that, because like I said, there are some days when if I had to go to the gym by myself and pick up heavy things and put them back down again, I probably wouldn't go.
Yeah.
I love it, never regretted a workout, but do I have the discipline and the motivation if it isn't peppered with a little bit of, I also get to have a giggle and I get to have some me time and I get to just do my thing whilst doing that as well. It is a really huge, the social aspect of it is huge for me as well. And I think that's what keeps me going back, aside from the fact that I can carry my shopping in. And I think we talked about this once before, and you said you could win arm wrestling as well. That's another huge benefit of strength training, is winning in arm wrestling competitions.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It's probably better than carrying your shopping in, to be
I'd say
honest.
that's a massive flex if you can win an arm wrestle.
Have you won many? I'm just going to put you on the spot
now. I can't
say
I've ever tried, to be honest, Vicky, but maybe I should.
Probably for 2025, this is the next thing on your list, is you've achieved so much already, maybe arm wrestling champ would
I'm going to put it on the list. Yeah, it's on my bucket list now.
So we are going to run out of time shortly. So if we've got any of our listeners or anybody who's viewing this today and they are thinking about, they'd like to improve their overall fitness, their overall health, and sort of live longer in a better way, what piece of advice would you give to anyone who's thinking about maybe joining a gym?
I know it's just cliche, but just do it. You won't regret it if you find the person that you connect with from a coach, because it's a two-way street. If you don't get along with your coach, or there's no sort of connection or relationship, then they're probably not the coach for you, and that is okay. That's absolutely fine. I am a massive believer that you need that connection with your coach, because it's quite a big responsibility. You need to be able to tell them things that may be bothering you or worrying you, and that it will affect your training. But I would just go and have a look, do your research on what type of training you may want to try, and take a mate, take a family member, and just go and give it a go. Just give it a go.
Let's do it.
Yeah, just do it.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining. We're going to put Holly's social details in the show notes. So you can reach out to Holly, follow her on Instagram where you're very active. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really fun and really informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Aw.